Alright everyone, we start off today with some poll analysis actually. Link in the description, not archived because this is a rolling average of polls. Donald Trump may utterly destroy Joe Biden in the upcoming election. I've long thought for months and months, as the polling has gone in a pretty predictable direction, with Biden's approval effectively at equilibrium now. It would be hard for it to go lower or higher, I think. I don't think it's going to move very much before the election. That's deep underwater. Matchup polling has generally been in Trump's favor. He's been ahead in the aggregate now for months and months, fairly consistently. And you've got to realize as we get closer to November, more and more people have effectively made up their minds with regards to who they're going to back. There are less and less decided voters as you go along, as the candidates do things, weigh in on issues, make statements, and so forth. Sometimes you lose a voter, sometimes you gain a voter, but the margin shrinks over time. There are fewer people that are undecided towards the end of the election. So a lot of undecided voters right now, I'm sure, many tens of millions of them. Maybe they lean in one direction or the other, but they have a leaning, or maybe they're totally on the fence, but that number shrinks. I was looking at this poll the other day, again from RCP. Trump is now 3.2 ahead in the aggregate when you look at the actual race, which is a five-way matchup. Trump v. Biden v. Jill Stein v. Cornel West v. RFK Jr. In those polls, Donald Trump paces ahead of the two-way race matchup by a couple of points actually now almost. The latest poll from Rasmussen, which is an outlier, and we'll get into what that means, of course, because it is meaningful, he's at plus 12. In the last round of polling, he's got plus 12, plus 1, plus 7, tie, and plus 9. There is nowhere where Biden is leading. At most, there's a tie. I would point out that Donald Trump was several points behind in 2016 when he won, and significantly behind in 2020 where he supposedly lost by a couple 100,000 votes. This is a no black pill zone at this point. I think that the Biden administration sees warning signs. We'll be talking separately today about how apparently the Biden administration is getting pissed off because foreign dignitaries keep meeting with Donald Trump. It's because they expect him to win. And it ain't just Javier Milei or Orban that's meeting with Donald Trump. We've got people from other nations where clearly they would prefer Biden win, either because of malevolence or stupidity, or because he's a pushover. They're meeting with Trump as well. We'll be talking about that separately. All signs point to the Democrats getting utterly obliterated in the 2024 election. If the polls look decent for the GOP in 2020 on some metrics, and, they did retake the House, albeit by a very underwhelming margin, things are going much more in their direction now. This is the Trump effect. What Trump is doing is he is pumping up the down ballot as well. It's not just him and his own race against Joe Biden, which is now assured. Unless Biden or Trump croaks or something like that happens, they will be fending one another off for the 2024 election. I don't see any positive signs for the Biden administration. It's easy to understand why, by the way. The economy is wonky. People go to the store more often than they hear Biden speaking. They have to pump their own gas. Mitt Romney had to do that one time, and that was really funny to many people. And the border crisis is a problem. The diplomatic crises that the Biden administration has unleashed are a problem. The endless spending towards foreign nations, therefore necessitated, is a problem. Although I would point out, in all honesty, Trump is aboard with some of that spending too. I think that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. In a five-way race, which is what you have, Donald Trump could end up crushing Joe Biden. We're talking the ability to win. All of the competitive states, I think, at this point would go to Donald Trump if the election were held today. I don't think there are enough ballot printers to go burr in order to overwhelm the sheer number of voters that are inclined to vote for Donald Trump and the significant malaise that we see as the result of Biden's failed domestic policies especially. I would favor him to have a 50-50 shot at stealing Virginia. I would say he has a considerable capability in Maine. I think those are both in play. I think we're polling the wrong states at this point. We shouldn't even be polling Georgia. We know, or Florida. We know that they're going to go to Trump. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion, especially with those states defortifying. I think we should be looking at Virginia and Maine. States that, again, should not normally be in play. Maine tends to be fairly blue. Virginia has been bluing, sort of like Georgia. And now they're swinging rapidly back in the other direction. Part of it's crime, part of it's the border, part of it's the economy, part of it's diplomacy. And the Democrats keep attempting to front back burner issues like abortion at the national level, but it doesn't translate right. Everyone is involved with the economy. Everyone is being affected by the border crisis, but it's a state-by-state sort of patchwork with abortion. And so that doesn't, again, it doesn't translate to a federal issue because many times the state's not really in play and they have their policies and they tend to be middle ground. There are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, the constituents of the state are in line with the policies that are being passed because those policies are popular. Or at least reasonably popular. You know, a slight majority of the population backs them. That's all you need, by the way, in the end. We've got Trump plus 5 in Arizona. We've got Trump plus 3.8 in Georgia. We've got Trump plus 1.2 in Michigan. Again, a state he shouldn't be leading in because it's technically a blue state. It looks like the metrics are better for him than they were in 2016 by a long mile. In Nevada, Trump plus 4.5. In North Carolina, plus 5.4. In Pennsylvania, he's at plus 1. Again, another state, like with Michigan, that technically speaking, Trump should not be particularly competitive in. This is a state that had been going bluer and bluer and bluer. You have the one-off in 2016 where he wins by the edge of a hair, basically. And now, you know, he's leading there. He wasn't leading in polling in these competitive states in 2016, generally speaking. There were some polls that showed him a point or two ahead, but then there were also plenty of polls that showed Hillary ahead. We're not seeing those polls this time around. His numbers are demonstrably and inarguably, objectively better than they were in 2016 when he won. And in Wisconsin, plus 1.8 again. These are not the key battles at this point. Nevada might be off the table. North Carolina and Georgia certainly are. We're polling the wrong states at this point. We should be polling Maine and Virginia and putting them in battleground territory. But I don't see any polls from them. Unfortunately, the pollsters haven't gotten the memo yet. If everything remains the same, Trump will not only win the competitive states he got in 2016, he could expand the map. This would be the most stunning rebuke, by the way, of the Biden administration, and something that I think will happen regardless of what happens with the lawfare against Donald Trump. I've seen polling that suggests that he loses 20% of voters or something like that if he gets hauled in on charges, he gets found guilty. I've seen other polls that say that he rises in his approval. I think the latter's more likely because with the indictment, certainly that's what happened. If anything, that allowed him to kick ass in the primaries far harder than otherwise. If he hadn't been persecuted, he might have lost a few states against DeSantis and Haley. It would make him look embattled. They shot their load too quickly. Now all they've got is their lawfare persecution and ballot printers. It's not clear that they're going to have enough of either of these things to stop Donald Trump. He could end up in a legendary landslide victory against Joe Biden, largely based on the economy and the migrant crisis. The numbers are there. The polling is much more certain than it was in 2020. I was betting on Trump to win in 2020 when he was running 4.5 behind in the end polling. And he supposedly lost, honk honk, yeah, the mail-in ballots and stuff, by a very, very slim margin. I believe still that he won that election. He just wasn't allowed to take office. They'll probably try it again as well. I don't know if they can stop him this time, though. The numbers just aren't there. If Joe Biden doesn't considerably improve his polling, and I don't see a methodology by which he can do that, he's toast. Donald Trump will sail to re-election really easily. He might even win the popular vote. That's about all. Peace out.